day or most of the day, so you actually know and know how we run this. Can I please, first off I should say thank you for coming to give us evidence, and can I please ask you for the Hansard record to give us your name and the capacity in which you appear?
My name is Sam Shetler. I am the state coordinator of the Anti-Poverty Network, SA.
Can I invite you to make an opening statement, and then we'll ask you some questions.
Thank you. So, I'm originally from the US, and I and my family have lived through the Social Security system there. My entire family and my entire upraising. That's my personal experience. And I came here a decade ago, and every year since, I have felt more at home. And that is a bad thing, because you do not want your Social Security system Americanized. I've experienced it firsthand, and it is ruthless and divides families and destroys them, and punishes and stigmatizes, and I think a lot of people can see that the outcomes are not good in the US. Also, an opening remark before I get on to our position on Newstart as APN is that I've been disappointed by the lack of social inclusion by the Senate committee and the Northern Sound System, the venue here, in that not recognizing people's economic barriers to participating here today. People have shared with you very traumatic experiences, and a breakout space, a space to prepare what they're going to say, some coffee and tea, food, anything, transport assistance to be here today. If we were not here today, you would have almost no one speaking from lived experience. And I think that the fact that none of these small things were done would have been apparent today if our members had not come. And the fact that we did not receive an invitation in the first place, despite us lobbying for 18 South Australian councils to support a race to Newstart, and the fact that 38 councils nationwide now support a race to Newstart, including the national and state LGAs, and the fact that we've been doing this for 6 years, and our group is entirely composed of people on low incomes and on Social Security payments, it dumbfounds me, I'll say that. And it was only once we contacted you and ACOS contacted you that we were then invited. I just suggest you think about that. So that was a slight overview of the Anti-Poverty Network SA as well. And we have been going 6 years, as I have said, and we have 6 branches in this state. People who are unemployed, low income, disempowered are organizing for themselves because the government is not supporting them. The fact that they have to do that, and the fact that the NGOs are not as well, speaks volumes. We have to do it for ourselves, so that should be something to think about as well. There are anti-poverty networks all around this country now because of the success of our group. Each is autonomous, and we are grateful for that, and we respect their work. And we'll be holding a conference next month where we'll bring everyone together, grassroots-wise, who's doing good work, to further continue to pressure the government to do what they should have done 25 years ago. So our Newstart position is to raise Newstart now, not tomorrow. Should be raised yesterday, 25 years ago. It has not been raised in real terms. It should be raised to above the poverty line. In fact, it should be raised way above the poverty line. There's been plenty of research, especially recently, that it should be raised by $200 more. It's ACOS, or the general call, is $75. We called for $100 immediately, and then a race to Newstart. That's our position. A race to the poverty line. That's our position. And yeah. So I just want to run through a few things, which is things that should be emphasized, which is the outright lies that the government makes about Newstart and people on Newstart. It's not a temporary payment. Most people are on it more than 12 months. Lie that the government often makes. We are not more likely to do drugs than anyone else in the population. This drug testing bill must not be passed. There are not enough jobs. There are about 17 job seekers for every one job vacancy. As I said, Newstart has not been raised in real terms in 25 years. It's linked to the CPI, but not the cost of living, cost of the wages. That's an obvious reform that can be done. Most are not younger; they're older. On Newstart, it's just useful myths that are perpetuated by the government and through the media. And the fact that Rudd had raised the age pension, it means that you can have more people who are older on Newstart. Most can work. There was just research the other day, or new ABS stats showing about 40% actually can't work who are on Newstart. And that the DSP criteria has been tightened up over the last decade. So people on the DSP has dropped by 2/3. Like, I don't think it's connecting home with people that these lies are outright lies pushed by the government, who is supposed to be the one who understands that Social Security as an entitlement means that it is a right. It is not something that should be arbitrary hoops to jump through, which is exactly one of the key themes of today, is that the job active system should be completely abolished. Nothing should remain of it. If you want anything useful, restore the CES, which was not perfect, and make that better. That's at least a foundation to work from. It's just amazing that we do advocacy for people who go through this, and I cannot find someone who has a positive experience. It's so obvious that it hurts. It hurts my mind. And abolish the demerit point system. It is literally giving job active providers the power of Centrelink to cut people off of their payments so they cannot pay for the insulin, as we heard before. Can you imagine having to ration your insulin? The demerit point system has to go today. It has to be done now. And work for the dole has to be done now. You think you can just scrap labor rights for people because they're unemployed? You think you can not pay them superannuation? That's insane. You can't do that. It's a new minimum wage that you create. You create a work for the dole. You can't just assume people on low incomes or on Social Security payments are untrustworthy and that you need to quarantine their income. You can't just trial this stuff out on Aboriginal people because they're in a territory or in some special site. You can't just systematically be racist because it helps you get through a policy where you want to punish all unemployed people. You can't do that, and that's why we are a group. And that's the same with drug testing, as mentioned. You need to abolish privatizing Centrelink. Anyone who thinks call wait times are bad, try privatizing Centrelink. They're going to get worse. Same with public transport. We need to get from A to B. You want to save the planet? Make sure more people use public transport. Subsidize it. And what we really need is what helped save the economy last time. Most economists now saying that we're heading towards a recession or even a depression. What did Rudd do last time that seemed to have worked under Labor? He did a stimulus package. What we need now is a targeted stimulus. And that's exactly what Raising Newstart is. It's a targeted stimulus at those who need it most, who are on these Social Security payments, who are literally rationing their insulin, who are literally not eating, sleeping in cars. You've heard it today. You need to actually stimulate the economy by being a humane society, one that understands Social Security is pivotal to people. You need to have a moral compass, and that's exactly what the current government doesn't have, and that's what the former government didn't have either. And it needs to be done before more people die. I don't understand. You can't have a robo-debt haunting someone's mother after they have died. beyond comprehensible. It's not even shameful. It's systematic. It's structural, embedded in the society. You cannot talk of a fair go with these things existing. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Cinda, ask you. You're okay? No, thank you.
You're all right, thank you.
Yes, I will ask some questions, thank you. Can I just ask you about your Facebook group? You've got a substantial number of followers, I think it's about 11,000 followers. Can you tell me what themes resonate strongly with that group?
First of all, it's a Facebook page, which is an outward-facing and whereas a group is inward-facing.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
No
okay,
worries.
Facebook page, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a substantial following because we have been active for 6 years, and we have been on the ground. Folks in our group have lived it, and then supported others who have lived it, and then have gone the extra step to try and change it. All with no resources. And you know what? Resources equals agency. So tell me how they're doing that. It's amazing. That's what it is. People in our group are amazing.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Shetler, I just want to bring you back to the question.
Yeah.
It was what are the themes that resonate strongly with those who follow your page and maybe comment on your
What are the
page?
issues
And
they raise?
yeah, what are the issues that they raise? What are those themes that are really strongly discussed within that group?
Yeah. So we share the content and then there's comments underneath it.
Yeah.
So essentially we set the topic and then discussion happens underneath it. So that's the function of it. And I'll just give you one example from the other day. A job active provider commented. A former worker of a job active provider commented. And we've been looking for someone to speak to and speak to the media because it's a story that needs to be told. Everyone who's been there can testify what it's like, but you know, those people who work there, they have appalling working conditions, and they brought up the fact appalling working conditions, high caseloads, cutting people off when they shouldn't be cut off, all these things. And then just yesterday, the day before, Guardian article published, I was able to put that person onto a journalist to speak to them, and they could tell their story to the media, and 3 people who were job active providers spoke out, and it was amazing. It was really good. It's always the things that I've already just mentioned. Those are the themes, and people feel strongly about them because they're being pushed into poverty and their lives are falling apart.
Thank you. Now you talked about the conference that you're holding in late November. Can you just step me through what stakeholders you anticipate to be present? What do you think the issues will be? Obviously, I presume Newstart will be on the agenda. And I guess the issues that come out of that, what then will you as a group do with that information? And can you just give me a bit of an idea about, like I'm talking about stakeholders, so you said people were coming from all over. I'm assuming you're meaning all over the country, or are there international people? I'm just interested as to what the themes are, what you're talking about, who's coming, and then what you'll do with that information.
The conference is titled One Big Raise, Dignity for All. So we've contacted grassroots groups from all around the country who are similar to us, the anti-poverty networks in Queensland, in Perth, in New South Wales, and Victoria. They're autonomous from us, but they took on our name, which is great. We've invited all the different branches of the Australian Unemployed Workers Union, Fair Go for pensioners, Young, so on and so on. We really focus on grassroots groups because we realize that the government is not acting, the NGOs are underfunded and have been co-opted to a certain extent. For example, managing housing trusts and not keeping them up. So we know that we have to do it ourselves, and that's why we're trying to build networks, links with all these grassroots groups so that we can continue to pressure the government. And this today is part of pressuring the government to act on Newstart, youth allowance, and one big raise is not just for a Newstart and youth allowance, it's for the age pension, the disability support pension, even the minimum wage needs to be raised. We're all coming together. Heavy union presence will be there. speakers, and we're really going to have a strong Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander focus. We're trying to get Gary Foley as a keynote speaker. We're going to have a First Nations panel, as we always do. This is our 4th conference. We organize it all ourselves. It's one of the it's the biggest anti-poverty week event in the country every year. This year we're holding outside of Anti-Poverty Week, but we're anticipating it to be bigger again. And the goal is to link each other, and we're trying to say the dignity for all aspect of it is to abolish all of these things that strip us of dignity, literally. Job active providers strip people of dignity, demerit points. Half of the time when job active providers cut people off, it would be overturned by Centrelink. Now, no right of review. So what's happened? More and more people being cut off. That's their food, that's their housing. It's amazing.
And just my final question, with the pull-out of top car makers from this state, we know that the economy has taken a hit with a decline in manufacturing, and that's been evidenced across the panels today. How do you think this has affected participants of your group, and what do you think can be done to ensure that they continue to have every opportunity to seek further employment or otherwise retrain their skills?
Great. So, no one in our group was laid off by Holden, just to be clear, that I know of. And
sorry to interrupt, but that obviously with that loss of that big manufacturing, that would have an impact on the people that are looking for work now. I assume in this area are larger than previously.
That's right. So Playford has very high unemployment, and in fact, I was in Davern Park the other day. Every shop in the Davern Park shopping centre put up our conference poster, and that is the highest unemployment suburb in the state, if not the country. And yes, it's severely impacted this area, the leaving of Holden, and it seems everyone can feel it and understand that it's doom and gloom situation. And the solutions are sometimes really obvious, I feel, and the leaving of Holden, it's like a bad omen or a symbol that everyone can see, but at the same time, we literally need less cars on the road for emissions and so on, and it makes sense to have a transition in the manufacturing industry, or a reform of the manufacturing industry, and we just simply need different jobs. And there's, like I said before, 17 job seekers per 1 job vacancy, and the unemployment's high. And there's been several proposals to change the Holden factory into different things. Could be manufacturing solar, it could be producing medicinal marijuana, it could be producing lots of different things, and those could create jobs. But the sad thing is that the economy, everyone seems to think that all the new jobs are going to be service sector jobs, care type jobs, jobs that are low paid, jobs that are viewed as less valuable, usually because women tend to do them, and it's incredibly sexist and also demeaning to think that a carer who is swamped with like 18 kids when they go to drop off my son at childcare is actually doing less hard work than someone who's being paid, I don't know, over $100,000 anywhere.
So this is my final question, Chair. Just in terms of going back to your conference, is one of the things that you'll be looking at the conference will be opportunities and how to, obviously I guess you'll talk about people's views on poverty and the adequacy of Newstart and other things, but will one of the themes be to look at what opportunities there are for people looking for work and areas of what could be achieved? Is that one of the things that your conference would look at?
Can you rephrase it a little bit?
Well, basically, I suppose I'm interested in the agenda for your conference. Obviously, we'll talk about poverty, we'll talk about Newstart and the adequacy of that, but also other income support payments. will one of the agenda items and one of the points of discussion be whether or not people who are attending the conference have ideas and suggestions for not only raising the benefits that people get, but also look at what opportunities there might be?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a pivotal part of every conference that we've ever held. And at the moment, we don't have a formulated position, a vision statement, but certainly it's a combination of a universal basic income, a job guarantee, a work week of either 3 or 4 days, community control institutions, which is definitely key to addressing.
What do you mean by that?
So if you look at what is actually effective in Aboriginal health, it's community controlled.
Yes.
So
Imposed.
disproportionately, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are on Social Security payments, and it is disgusting, racist, discriminatory that is the case, especially the work for the dole, the community development program, which is literally racist. They have more mutual obligations than someone does here in Elizabeth. It's just, yeah, so anyway, we have a vision, we speak out about it every time. So the theme, to be very clear about the theme so that I don't have to repeat again, which is that one big raise will have people from disability, age pension, Newstart, youth allowance, and people who are arguing for our minimum wage to come together to go, hey, one big raise, you know. And then the second part is dignity for all, which is scrap basically mutual obligations. Scrap these things that are dehumanizing. Welfare is a right, Social Security is a right. And in fact, lots and lots of jobs can be created by getting rid of so much unnecessary things, and so much money will be generated by scrapping those as well. And I don't know how to explain the fact that if you're not punishing people, if you're not stigmatizing people, these people can be healthy enough to work. You know, the economy is obviously flawed and not creating enough jobs. So do what has been done in the past and has worked. The government creates those jobs. You know, value things that should be valued. Value carers. We don't. Oh my God, I'm a teacher. I should not have giant class sizes. Carers should not be swamped by a gazillion little kids. Do we value children at all in this society? The fact that we don't properly have these ratios? Look at all those jobs. The jobs are already there. We're just not valuing them appropriately. And it's disgusting. It's literally disgusting.
Okay, thank you. I think it'll be an interesting conference.
Yeah. I'll just add one more thing if you don't mind.
No.
We always get asked, how do you pay for a raise to Newstart? We know how to pay for a raise to Newstart. Don't do what we just did. We need a progressive tax system, not a regressive one. You should not be paying less tax than us. Companies should be paying high tax rates. We should not be buying F-35s that don't work. One submarine is enough to pay for the race to Newstart. How many are they building? It's insane. It's insanity for whose wars?
Thank you, Mr. Shetler.
I've got one last question. In terms of, we've heard lots about what's not working. You know, heard the message about job active, but are there things that you've seen that do work in terms of supporting people to find work? And I've also heard about, you know, I understand that arguments about mutual obligation and the impact it has. But I'm looking, we just heard, for example, about, you know, your job, your way. So are there other programs, what are the ingredients of programs that would work to support people? I also understand the issue about generating jobs. But what are the things that do help people into work?
Yeah, as I said, restored the CES. That's what came before Job Active. It wasn't perfect. It can be a lot better. And there's a trial site south of Adelaide, a very general description of where this trial site is. We don't know what Job Active providers are participating. But the trial is about scrapping the 20-job mutual obligation and pushing people online, okay? So it sounds good, oh, we're going to drop the 20-job requirements, but pushing people online, according to ACOS, that may make the job active provider system worse. People do need face-to-face support, and that's where it comes back to restoring the CES so that people actually can have support, you know? Pushing everyone else online is not working. So, you know, we already have institutions here, you know, that can support people, but this comes back to what I mentioned with privatization as well. The government is essentially stripping its own institutions of the funding that they require. Oh my God, the TAFE is one of the clearest examples. How destroyed is the TAFE across the country? You need to fund your institutions if you want them to work proper. Like, I don't need to explain this. The fact that we had things that work, restore them, fund them proper, don't give vultures, literal vultures, job active providers who are for profit. You don't give Serco, who's running detention centers, running Centrelink, call centers. It doesn't make any sense. So do that, and then obviously there is community initiatives all over the place. If given any value, they would like, if, for example, our group, if we were given a fraction of what most NGOs are given, we could do so much more with it than anyone else can do. But we're not viewed as valuable. Anybody who gets funding is muzzled to a degree. We're not going to be muzzled. We're going to speak as we see it, and we're going to be critical, and we're going to demand. And that's exactly what stops us from getting funding, and we could be helping you. Thanks.
Thank you. That's pretty certain it takes us through yet to 4:30. So thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much for all our witnesses' time today. We appreciate it, particularly those who gave their evidence around their own personal lived experience. That's always very important for us. So we'll adjourn this hearing today, and we recommence this particular inquiry on Friday in Alice Springs.